Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of InEvent Talks. My name is Deji for those who don't know me, and I have the special honor of being your host today. If you're joining us for the first time, InEvent Talks is an original series by InEvent where we host discussions with industry experts as well as thought leaders across a number of fields and disciplines. One day it could be a talk on mental health and the tools needed to navigate it. The next, it could be a talk on expertise on HR, or even just work tips on improving your efficiency. You truly never know what you're going to get with us. The only thing that we guarantee is that it'll be informative, educational, and entertaining. Now, today we're going to be speaking about the value of the digital age and human interaction, asking the question, what could go wrong? I'm really interested to know what the answer to that question is today. And we're actually going to find out because today we're with a special guest. He has a very varied experience and just history on topics like this. But I'm going to introduce him because obviously, like, I'm not here by myself. Our special guest is Freek van Laar, the customer success. He's a customer success manager, digital enhancer, entrepreneur, director, and speaker. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today, Freek. Can you hear me?
Yeah, DJ, I can hear you. I can hear you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Special thanks as well to InEvent. Happy to join you and the audience and talk a little bit about the topic of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for even just making our acquaintance. This is always an honor to be able to speak to just leaders and titans of industry. So thank you so much for just taking the time. So I'm just gonna set the table a little bit, and just say speaking on like the digital experience, right, and just humanizing it. A lot of time, effort, and money has been spent on that very exact thing. So humanizing the digital experience. How do you think we are doing so far? That's the question for we're going to be asking, right? And I think with this in event talk, we're going to just be figuring that out and just trying to see if I guess the human experience is broadening on the virtual front, and if we'll actually be genuinely humanized, or if it's just one of those fantasies that I guess we've kind of seen, with sci-fi movies and a lot of the fads that seem to be going on today, right? And then also with speaking on that for the audience, the modern customer is often on the go and seeks instant support and always wants a seamless experience. And while such demands may be met through advanced technologies, it's essential that the human touch remains, right? And so customers exist just they expect digital customer experiences by businesses not only to be integrated but also more advanced and secured. So to avoid falling behind your competitors in the fast-moving experience economy, it is very important as we have like just been able to do with our research and understand with our research that you humanize the customer experience. Now I'm just going to throw this to you, Freek. Um, my first question that I have is more centered around your experience and how you got there. So, how did you start working with the digital experience and its relationship with the client?
Well, my first experience, and then we're already talking like 10, 15 years ago, and then basically we're talking about adding experience more than being like the user or the customer myself. So when I started like to investigate and study and develop strategies, basically that my first experience was within in the digital field was related to user experience and user interfaces. So basically, a lot of the strategies, tactics, and politics we kind of applied for coming up with how to improve and how to be consistent with an experience in an interface of a disposal like 10, 12 years ago. Basically, we were still talking, I would say there were already tablets, we already had some smartphones, but basically it was like the laptop or desktop interface. So that was my first experience, where first of all, one of the first rules you come across is that there are some basic ground rules, but within a digital context. I'm not still not entering in the physical part, physical experiences, but within the digital context, you always need to try. You always need to listen. Everything starts, and jumping a little bit ahead, everything starts with like coming up with your assumptions, and then taking out if your assumptions are true or not. So basically, a lot of it's not, of course, it's not science, but that was the first time that I and our company that we became aware that basically you can translate human experiences, user experiences, that you can translate them into quantitative and qualitative metrics models in order to see if your customer, your client, is going and is offering the right experience, is offering the content and transactions in the right moment, in the right time for specific target audiences. So it first started, as I already mentioned, we're talking UX, UX in a moment that a lot of our clients still, when we were like discussing their new website, their new interface, their new intranet, they still were like, we still had those funny conversations and debates of, hey, you know what, I'm not too convinced about the colors you guys are using. I'm not convinced about the icons, etc., etc. While we already, with our metric model, we're already more interested in seeing, are you and are we developing a seamless, frictionless digital interface experience? And that, of course, was for that was like phase one. We want to offer the best user experience available with the technology of the moment, with the content management systems, with all the programming, the front of the interfaces. But that was still a standalone issue, or topic. Then we started to see that it basically, and that's when it really went in a few years, I would say like 2, 3 years. So we started with UX, then we added the whole A/B testing. So once again, we were adding like investigation, trying to see if the audience was really acting, and the audience was really considering that we were giving them a seamless and frictionless experience. Then we started to see that, hey, you know what, digital is becoming more important for companies. And what did that meant? Well, that within the digital context, and we're talking about their digital channels, they got interested in seeing, hey, you know what, how can we work on a funnel? How can we work on conversions? How can we come up with a set of metrics in our digital ecosystem in order to see if we're doing well, in order to see if we're doing the same or better than our competition. And then I must say the whole ball game changed, because as a standalone topic, which was like how to improve the user usability of a website, we started moving up in the chain of added value, and before we knew, we were already sitting with us and talking with our clients regarding how to convert their organizational objectives within or into like KPIs, not only in the digital field, but also in the whole customer within the whole customer journey. So then definitely we started to work a lot on human-centric approaches. Customer always in the center, and that's basically what's today is a very hot topic. It's like, in fact, I just finished a workshop with one of the main governmental departments over here, and the theme is roadmap to customer centricity. So definitely, and that's one of the things I always mention. And then we were talking about humanizing as well.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very tough to come along. I would say like an approach, a strategy involving digital transformation where you don't put the person in the middle. And I say specifically, I say person because of course we are citizens, can be citizen centric if it's a project from for the government, public sector. It can be patient if we're health in the healthcare industry. Well, it can be customer in a lot of industries. And then, of course, not only customer in a B2C context and a business to consumer context, but also in a business to business context, also in a business to consumer context. So, a huge variety of topics, of industries, of context. But what you always see is that you need to take and you need to put the persons, well, let's say it as it is, the humans, in the center of your approach. And then once again, that's basically what we also do when we apply, for example, the double diamond of the service design framework. Basically, what you do is always have a look and approach starting from the customer, trying to understanding her, trying trying to have that as your foundations, as your starting pillars when you're in an activity, an initiative, or a strategy, a development in general related to humanizing the experience.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very vivid answer, and it actually covered quite a bit as far as like even the journey that led you to this more holistic approach in terms of like the customer, defining your customer and the entire customer experience. I have a quick question actually, and this one is a bit more of a selfish one. It's kind of like me going a bit off script here. Um, so I feel like the conversation about customer experience kind of became heightened in recent years, right? So where I guess UX wasn't as big of a conversation, for example, or user experience, for example. Maybe in the last 6 or 7 years, I don't know if this is something that you would agree with. It feels like that's now one of the central conversations as far as like even just defining today's customer, right? Is that did that surprise you? Has that boom surprised you? Is that something that you did you feel like it was always inevitable that it was going to be this way, considering how important it is?
I think it was not always inevitable, but it definitely became inevitable due to the fact that it was everything related to UX, not only UX, also CX is it's more than a pillar. It's one of the once again it's very related, and it's the front part of your KPIs, of your organizational metrics. So now today, for a lot of company, it looks like very normal, very standard, to have that approach. But the inevitability, if that word exists, pardon my English, it became inevitable. Yeah, of course, inevitable when you saw the direct link between having and giving a tremendous experience, customer experience during the whole customer journey, whole touch points. So now already not only talking about the digital part, it's the whole around the digital ecosystem. When a company started to see that definitely the better they scored, the positive impact that had on their bottom line, sales wise, profit wise, etc., etc. Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of studies where you can see that company can make themselves or break themselves, depending, of course, of the industry. but that really can be a deal breaker if they don't consider and if they don't care the customer experience. And today, of course, if previously it was more like a product or service oriented way of analyzing the markets and your target audiences. Today, it's more an exercise of trying to see, besides the seamless and frictionless experiences, it's also an exercise of what does our company stands for. You know, what are our values? Why should a customer identify with my brand? What do I offer? What is my place? And then, of course, a lot going on ESG matters, sustainability, governance, because today a lot of the customers, people in general, are concerned with those topics. So definitely, it's no more a possible gain or a win if you have the best product of the market.
Thank
And
you
even
so much.
if you
Go
hand
on,
out
go
the
on.
best, it's way it became way it has become way more complexer.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot more elements to consider today, it feels. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
move on to my next question, and thank you for
yeah.
expanding on that, by the way. That was just one of those personal things that I have been wondering about since the boom just sort of happened recently. So my next question then is, what is the most valuable thing you have learned from working in the digital field?
Yeah, I would say the most valuable thing, and not only in the digital field. There are some words and expressions I repeat, like unfortunately for people that spend more time with me, but I repeat them quite frequently. But for me, a tag word, a keyword, the valuable thing is how do you achieve relevance?
Hmm.
Relevance for your target audience, relevance for your customers. Uh, how and then you have I can double click on that one, and then you can say what does that mean, relevance? Well, relevance means that within my journey as a citizen, as a customer, within my needs and desire cycle, well, that you as a company with products and services and experience to offer, well, that you appear in the right moment, the right time, offering me the right service product within my context, you know. And that's a tough one because there are a lot of people on this planet. So achieving and coming up with like a strategy that is applicable for a group as a big as group as possible, but also adding like a more customized, personalized touch. That's a tough challenge, especially nowadays. If we go back to the digital, if we move back to the digital part, where you have all the GPR, the GP, no, GDRP issue, the security, the security, the privacy issue. So it's not, it has become a little bit more difficult. But for me, once again, what the most valuable thing is, and that's something basically you can measure relevance. You can add or you can put a whole list of KPIs, metrics. You can relate them to, or you can translate relevance in a lot of metrics. So that's important for me. Relevance. And I'm not going to go again to the history stories about those giants who are not among on us anymore. That went broke like 10, 15 years ago. I'm not doing that one. But basically, if you ask me, well, Freek, one word to put that into context, why they are not here anymore. Well, it's they just lost relevance for their market.
Yeah. So relevance is one of those things that you feel like should always be in consideration.
Yeah,
Fair enough. That
definitely.
makes sense. That makes sense. Just always, yeah, that does make sense actually. Because when I think about InEvent, um, and just how InEvent has been able to survive this long, especially in an industry that's always moving and where things are always evolving. One of the things that Pedro, who is our CEO, always kind of just hamps on and just always is driving home as a point to us is just staying relevant to our customers, providing them with things that they want now as opposed to things that they want later, or or under delivering on what they require from us. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on relevance being a key point to look out for. Um and yeah, and one that cuts across as well, even just outside of the digital field. So my next question then, um, so you're the director of the Latin American Digital Transformation Network, right? Which is wonderful. And I just wanted to say, how is Latin America advancing in this field as far as like digital is concerned? Is it different from, I guess, let's say the United States or Asia, for example?
Well, and I'll be as blunt to add Europe as well. But and first of all, even more blunt, because I want to add to the relevance part. It's not only, and that's what you mentioned, very important. It's not only you if you're like talking about relevance. Of course, first thing that you need is to be relevant today, but you always, and that's basically what you said, you always need to have an eye on the future, on how are we going to remain relevant. And within these agile times where with a lot of changes, that's key, being relevant today. If like 20, 30 years ago, if you had like a competitive position, it was quite easy to stay 5, 10, 15 years on top. Today, in 1 year, depending on the industry, of course, but in one day you can be blown away. So you also need to have an eye on the future, which is also something a pretty new paradigm for a lot of companies and organizations. And then comparing and going back to the last question, Latin American, Europe. If we're talking about humanizing, if we're talking about developing or having developed the right channels, and then we're talking about transactional channels, communication channels, the experience that they involve you in as a customer, as a user. I would say that because right now I'm working in Belgium, in Europe, I'm in Europe, and I must say that Latin America, and most of my experience is related to Chile, Peru, Colombia. I would say that I definitely can say that if we're talking about the digital customer journeys, that talking about humanizing experience, we're not talking about digital transformation. I'm narrowing it to the topic of today. If we're talking about those experiences, I would say that South America and then again the three countries are mentioned. They're in quite a competitive state and place. For example, in Chile, it already starts that you have like it's a very long, narrow country. You're talking about I think more than 4,000 kilometers. You have cellular coverage, so a connectivity coverage of almost 100%. There are like 18 million citizens, and I think there are like 25 or even more cell phones. And a lot of the interactions and experience the companies and even government offers you are quite comprehensive. So they go, you have a really nice mix and architecture of communications and transactions that fluctuates between physical, digital, and I would say that my experience over here in Europe, for example, it's kind of less advanced, which is kind of a surprise. But then again, I'm talking more about Belgium and then France and going more to the Mediterranean Sea, going more to the south because there are countries like the Netherlands, like Britain, like Germany. They're already more advanced. But talking about like a personal experience, even South America, I want to go to the dentist. I Google it. I say dentist, and within well, on the top of a click, and within 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure that I can like have book a visit in at least five dental care centers. Well, over here in Belgium, it's a tough one. It's still a more phone action. So I'm definitely not. Uh, Definitely something I'm not used anymore. So then you can see that, okay, is it humanizing, doing or making a phone call to for a visit to the dentist? Yeah, of course, it's humanizing. If is this still like, and then again, relevant? Is this the most relevant way to do it in 2022? I don't think it is. So regarding relevance and regarding like the whole humanizing part, the customer experience we're talking about, I definitely would say that there are some countries in South America that definitely are in a nice place. But then once again, compared to the United States, I would say it depends on some industries. Some are more advanced than other ones. Last year, I worked on some project with US-based companies. So it really depends on the industry. But then if we go median average, the median like analysis, I would say that yeah, South America is in the middle, and Asia is a little bit, or is more advanced than more than a little bit. Like it's Asia, Middle East. So I would say that's like in that order. I would say Middle East, Asia, US, and then South America. But then again, a very global general view. If we double click and see it per country, there can be huge differences between each country and between each continent and even each continent.
Thank you very much. So I can imagine that it varies just based on different areas. And I guess part of the reason we wanted to ask that was just, just to kind of get an idea of how different areas of the world are approaching this digital transformation. And obviously with your experience in Latin America, we felt like it might be a question worth asking. But thank you for answering that. That was very
Hmm.
clear and concise. So I was gonna read something to you very quickly and just get your opinion on it, right? So there are many positive aspects of digital transformation, but little is said about the negative aspects, which obviously everything has its negative aspects, right? So for example, like never-ending change, that's unavoidable. Technological process, for the foreseeable future, that never ends as well. These are positives. But these also mean that your digital transformation has to kind of be an ongoing process, kind of like what we said with the previous question. And when new solutions based on scientific breakthroughs invade the market, you have to be like super quick and ready for the like just further digital transformation in the future. So I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on this, for as far as like the negatives of digital transformation, and I guess also just of like how quickly things are moving. Because it feels like things are just constantly evolving and moving so quickly. And even when I think about laws, so like even if you're speaking about the GDPR for like data privacy, um, it feels like the laws kind of follow the technology as opposed to before when it's like, the law could kind of preempt it. So I'm just wondering, what is your opinion on like the negative sides of these sorts of transformation and like technological growth? If there are any
Yeah.
negative sides in your opinion, they might not be, just I'm wondering what your opinion would be.
Um, I think there could be negative aspects, but then again, I think we have in our own hand, if we let them become negative, and then maybe putting it into like a customer experience context, plain, not going to. Too deep or a complex situation. It's just thinking about people that for different reasons will never be like digitals. So then we're thinking, for example, the typical ones is like third age, people with I don't know with cognitive issues, And then what you need to see, and then that's also like it's called humanizing for something, you know. It's like not leaving nobody behind. So then again, you go to that service design table and you say, you know what are our profiles? And for me, definitely, it can become a pretty negative aspect if you don't work around and with the entire profile, let's call it ecosystem or universe. You know, if you leave those profiles behind or outside your scope, yeah, then of course quickly you will have a negative aspect. So for me, that's one of the approaches, and one of the main things you also need to consider when you're talking about digital transformation on a whole. But
Okay.
yeah, negative aspects. It depends on us. Once again, if we let them become negative aspects.
Fair enough.
Transformation, digital transformation per se, but once again, because technology is not digital transformation, it's an enabler. So in digital transformation, you also have like the pillar, as already mentioned, people. Well, if you work on that, if you effectively and efficiently have it as a pillar, there should be no ground for negative aspects. But it's not an easy challenge. It's not an easy one.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That actually explains a lot, and it also just kind of speaks to, I guess, how it's the human element more than anything else that does the corruption, as opposed to the concepts in themselves. Um, so speaking about the human element, because you spoke about human relations a bit in when your answer that you gave, just
Mhm.
backing on that, how do you think, I guess, the virtual distance in today's world is affecting human relations and customer experience? So, like, what effect do you think that's been having?
I think it's. I prefer to be like transparent. I think it's something we don't have resolved yet.
Hmm.
Like the virtual distance. The, we're dealing with a lot of new paradigms, you know. So I think it's not a scientific or a mathematical exercise. So and then I go back. It's kind of interesting when you go. I remember a few months ago I saw like um, some interviews on the streets. We're talking about I guess like mid '90s, Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and they were asking people about what do you think about the cell phone, and
So,
9 out of 10 people didn't see the value. So why should I be available anytime, any moment? If people need to tell me something, well, they can leave a message, and I will listen it when I have time, when I arrive at home. So there are a lot of new paradigms, and I'm not the one who is going to like come up with how do we say that, a prediction on how it will affect it. That it will affect it. It will affect it. To
yeah,
what extent, that will depend as well on every situation, every person, within every context. And it's kind of interesting if you see that, of course, we're talking about virtual distance, but in today's world, you can read so much about the top 10 skills for the new HR. And one of the first things that you find on top are like human centric skills. You know, it's like soft skills. It's like being uh, empathy, being able to listen, having a collaborative mind, and then those are all like skills, competencies that you could say like how does that mix with like that we're in a virtual distance, because how are you going to like to have that behavior, that mindset, if on one side we're saying that every time we will be more like in the virtual world, you know. So I think we will need to see how that will play out. You know, I don't think that no definite outcome yet regarding that one. So that it will affect us, it will affect us, and sometimes there's also a counter, like a counter or a counter action. You know, thinking that we will be go more into that direction. But well, maybe a group, some profiles will like being like more reactive and stepping away from that process. So uh, definitely interesting time.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you. So I just have, I guess, two more questions that are going to be on digital transformation, if you don't mind. Um, So my first, then, I guess, just to get an understanding, a bit more of an understanding of the core practices of, what it is that you do and just how you feel like it impacts the world. The first question is, why is digital transformation important to you? And second, um, how do companies get involved in digital transformation? And even just, I guess, I as a person. So how should I start? Where do I start? And how can I fund this transformation is the questions that I guess even people like me or like companies as well are asking. But please feel free to answer whichever, immediately jumps out at you.
Yeah. So why digital transformation is important? Well, basically, it's a way because I'm going to be very concise. It's definitely a way to, and then again, I come to that word. It's a way to remain relevant. You're not going if you're not considering, and I guess today it's already kind of ought to come to encounter yourself with a company organization that's not doing the tiniest thing, bit of digital transformation. So it's definitely it should be part of every exercise regarding like track. Well, you will become obsolete because a lot of competition has emerged from not only, and once again, it's not only about the technology, it's more about how we use technology to enable, for example, experiences. So once again, if you go to the experience, it will be very tough for a company today to subsist if subexist if they don't have digital in their mindset, and it should be in their DNA, because digital transformation, once again, it has to do with being have an open mind, being agile, having data centric politics, using the data in order to come up with analysis, to come up with strategies, to have a finger, I don't know if you said it, but to have a finger on the pulse, to be to have a whole set of not variables, but the whole set of components in order to come up. And there I go again, to come up with being relevant. Because today it's a comprehensive thing, you know. It's not only giving the best customer experience; it's also how can I align my whole back office, my operations, my accountability, my finance. How can we work as a company on the whole on, for example, putting the customer in the middle, and in order to have that pulse, in order to be able to take the right decision, in order to offer in 2022 the experience your customers are looking for. Definitely, there's no way of doing that without a digital transformation. And how do you start? Well, as you start, there is no rocket science there. It's not really a digital transformation related way of working. Well, as you do with every project, if there already exists something. Well, what you do is evaluating and doing a diagnosis of the current state, coming up with the as is. So basically, that's how you answer the question: where do I start? Well, where are you? There are, of course, there are a lot of scales. So you have the scale of 1 to 5, or you have a scale of 1 to 4, and of course that come with a lot of queries, with a lot of evaluation questions. And first thing you need to do is, although you know that you're like a lagger, you need to know how far are you behind. If you're considering and trying to become like a digital transformation champion. So the first thing to do is, as always, come up with an evaluation. Where are we? Where am I? And then once you have that evaluation, you go towards the next step. So that's also a nice one, is saying, you know what, where are we going to plant our flag in the future, and what does that mean for our company? Where do we want to be like in 2030? What will be our mission and vision to achieve that? What is going to be our strategy? What are the initiatives aligned or more aligned associated with those strategies? Um, and basically, the evaluation is the starting point. That's how you start. That's how in fact, we did quite some project just by doing that evaluation. Uh, Although it was just that study, a lot of our clients then went with, "Hey, I guess we need to do something. Can you help us out coming up with like a strategy, a full-blown strategy for the next couple of years?"
Thank you, thank you. That answers that question very succinctly. So I'm just gonna wrap up with this, which is a question that we typically ask, and we've gotten very interesting answers. Just to finish up, um, who are the three most inspiring people alive for you?
I'm going a little bit off track. More than going off track, more than coming up with names. I definitely go for, first of all, people that have people that come from a very how do you say that in English? People that were not dealt with the best cards in the world, when they were
Yeah,
born, during
yeah,
their childhood,
yeah,
and that definitely, with a lot against them, they were able to come up with like an interior force, like with related and combined, of course, with perseverance, with dedication, with motivation, with a lot of positivism, because that's the only way you can achieve that. If things are quite against, if things are quite against you. So for me, then more than specific person, I would say it circles around that profile of person. So it can be, and therefore I don't want to come up with like a well-known name. For me, it can be like it can be an actor, it can be a politician, but it also can be my neighbor.
yeah,
Uh, so it's more the context of the person and how they dealt with it. And then, of course, inspiring people. I like, of course, then again, creative people that come up with things, with ideas that make you think. And I definitely like person who can come up. That's the one. Come up with ideas where you say, "Hey, you know what? That's a really nice one, but I should have thought about that one, because it's not
yeah,
always the rocket science or the very evolved innovations, for examples, or creations that blow me away. Also, the ones where you say, "Hey, this was a no-brainer. How can it be that these persons or this company is the first one to have figured that one out?" So those are like the situations and profiles I like to read and sit with, not only read, always sit, talk about, have a nice conversation, see where they're coming from, and how they came up with something like that.
Yeah. We actually have that in common because I really enjoy those stories as well. And I thank for that answer. I feel like you and our CEO Pedro would get along really well because he and the InEvent CTOs kind of have what I would call a grass to grace story. Just having come out of college and not really known too much, and growing and developing a company that's worth millions of dollars. So yeah, that's definitely something I guess that we agree on in terms of like the grass to grace story. And I appreciate you for sharing that. Um, and yeah, we've actually come to the end of our discussion. This has been so insightful and interesting. I've learned a lot. My page is full of notes, that I've taken down. And I'm sure the audience has a lot on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on the InEvent platform, wherever they've joined us from, really. And I honestly just want to say thank you, Freek, for joining us today. These have been such great points. I appreciate the personal anecdotes from your life, things that you've gained just in your experience with digital transformation and just everything that you've, really seen to your career at this point. I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. This should be, I'd love to see what else is going on your end, but I'm just more grateful than anything that you took the time out to speak to us, and we do not take it for granted. We appreciate you.
No, it's very mutual, DG.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for joining us. We do this weekly and sometimes it gets very, you know, very interesting because there's so many answers that we hear over time and we get different anecdotes and stories, but it never really just fails to be entertaining, informative, and educative. And like Break, told us today, there's just so many things that you can gain. So I honestly, guys, we appreciate you for joining us. We have another talk scheduled for next week. I would love for you guys to be there as well. But until then, it's been an excellent time hosting an event talks with you once again. But we will see you soon. Have a wonderful week.